Door lock actuators. That's what we got going on today. Let's get to work. Alright, the door lock actuator on this driver's door on this Accord is not working properly. It's only working intermittently. I'm fairly confident we have a bad door lock actuator. I'll test it with the test light once we get in there. I'll show you how to do that. But in order to get in there, we got to get this door panel off first. Alright, we got some screws we got to get out, and they're they're covered by, well, covers. There we go. We'll pop this one out, and we got to get that screw right there. And then this cover right here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my favorite little screwdriver here. I'm going to press that tab in just like that, and I'll put my finger over there and press on it, and it usually will pop right out once you do that. I can't do it with one hand because I'm holding the camera, but we'll get that off, and then there's two screws behind there we got to get. Take our screwdriver, and we'll pop it out. Now we just got to grab all the screws. There's one. Come on. And while we're right here, we'll pop this cover off. Usually you can just grab it from the top, pull it over and up. You can see it has some feet here, so we don't want to pry the bottom first. We want to pry the top, and it'll just release from that clip. And whenever I'm dealing with Honda door panels, these are my two favorite tools, my two screwdrivers here that I'm going to go grab to get these things off. This little Craftsman screwdriver, 41589. This is a 1/8 flathead tip. This is the one I use all the time. I've used this thing for years for prying little parts off. And then this is a vessel number 2 JIS screwdriver, or Japanese Industrial Standard. Many of these screws on here are JIS, so we want to use a JIS screwdriver. Sometimes I'll need a number 3, so this is a number 3, this is a number 2. And sometimes we'll need some kind of trim tool to pop the panel off. This case there is a decent little lip around the bottom here, so I'll use this to get it started to pop the door panel off. And then sometimes we need some kind of pliers, some needle nose pliers to remove clips, but for the most part those are the two I'm always going to grab right there, and I can get most Honda door panels off with just these two. And sorry about the cooler noise, but it's another hot day in Arizona. I got to keep my cooler running. Alright, now we need to pop all the clips out that are holding this door panel in all the way around. And you can see that there's a decent little lip here, and then just the body line, I can't really grab it. Most of the time you can just reach up under here on these Hondas and you can pull them off. In this case I'm going to use a trim tool to help me out. We're going to put it in there, and you can see that popped it. Then we can put our fingers in there and then pull it out. We're going to work our way all the way around. Come on. Normally I'd be holding the door so it won't move, but I'm holding the camera. Typically I'll put my hand over here and brace it. That way I can just pop it out all the way around. But there, now it's loose. Now if you ever are removing a panel from a Honda and you start pulling on it and you feel resistance, sometimes there's more than one screw in here. Sometimes they're in the handle like this. Sometimes they're down below. You can just reach down here and feel a hole. Sometimes there's a cover here covering it and you got to pull it off. Just depends on the model. And then sometimes there's a screw there, or more than one screw holding the speaker on some models, and you got to grab those. So if you feel a lot of resistance, stop. Find the missing screws before you continue. Otherwise you'll be buying a new door panel, or you'll have a broken one, and that's no fun. Alright, now if you read the service information, it's going to tell you to pop this out right here. Now in my experience, especially these fake wood grain plastic trim pieces, they tend to be very brittle and break. They're going to snap everywhere. In fact, this one, you can see I can lift this up right here. It's already broke. There's a clip that's supposed to be holding that down. It's already broke. I'm gonna try to avoid breaking this any further. I'm gonna leave it in place, and once I pull the door panel off, I'm gonna reach around and disconnect it that way rather than pop it up and out and disconnect it. It's easier to do it that way, but it's also extremely expensive to if you break all these, and they don't glue very well. I want to say this trim piece is a couple $100, just this piece alone, without even any of the electronics in it. So we're not going to do that. Now what I am going to do is, you see we got a light right here. I'm just going to reach around and twist the light and pop it out. You can see right there, there's our light. Maybe you can't see it. There's our light. All you got to do is twist it a little bit and pull it out. And what I'm going to do, so that the light doesn't stay on, just going to pull the light bulb out. There, you can just pull it straight out. It's going to be hot. That's why I have my glove on. And we'll just set that aside, and now we don't have to worry about having that light bulb on the whole time we're working on it. It's also not a bad idea, turn off the switch to your interior lights, so that way they're not staying on and burning up your battery. Alright, next what I'm going to do, take my long needle nose pliers, and I'm going to come in here, and well, there you can see where the light was, right there. Right, where are we at? Right there. That's where I disconnected it. But if you follow the line along right there, you can see there's a clip right there that's holding that wire in. I'm just going to turn it a little bit. Let's see if I can show it. I'm just going to turn the wire a little bit so that I can squeeze the tabs. I'm going to squeeze it and then pop it out. Kind of difficult to show, but that's all I'm going to do with my pliers, and then that way it'll be fully disconnected from the door and I don't have to deal with it. Did my big head get in the way? If so, sorry. You guys were right in my way though. But that's all. Now we're disconnected, and now we don't have to deal with it once the panel comes off. Alright, now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pull this panel away just a little bit so that the clips don't catch. And then I'm going to lift it up off the channel. It rides and sits right on a channel right there. We're going to have to lift it up off that channel and over this doorknob. We're going to pick it up and pull it away just a little bit. Now we got a door lock cable that comes over to the handle over here, and it runs across. And it's very common, as soon as you start prying that door panel away, it's going to break. In fact, what was it? Yeah, the last time I worked on this car, I had to do, or this door I should say, I had to do the window regulator. That's right, I replaced the window regulator, and that cable snapped immediately as soon as I took it off. That's pretty common once they're in there a few years. Now this cable was what is a year, maybe 2 years old, so we might have good luck and it may not break, but there's a good chance that it probably will break. So I already have a cable on hand in case it does, but just be aware that we're probably going to break that cable. But we're going to have to disconnect it right there while we're holding up the door panel, so it's kind of a one step where you lift it up and off, and then we got to manipulate it, and then I'll have to reach up under there and try to disconnect the two connectors. They can be kind of a bear on this side. The passenger side's a little bit easier. This side a little bit more difficult, and it is easier if you could pry this up and get them off that way. But like I said, we don't want to break that stuff, so that's the next step to get this thing off. Dang, that door cable was in there good. You can see just what I was afraid of. We broke some cables or some plastic pieces. And there's our door panel. And you can see what happens This stuff is just so brittle. This fake wood, I hate this stuff. Anyway, this piece right here, if you saw, snapped right off. I'm gonna have to try to epoxy this back because that's the only thing holding our whole thing in. Everything is broken nowadays. There's nothing left of this thing. Every clip that was on here is gone now, so we're gonna have to figure something out to get this thing to work again. And while we're right here, I'll show you what I was dealing with. This cable right here, you can see, this is normally where it breaks, right on the middle of that green part right there. It clips, can you see? Right there, it clips into this metal piece. So in order to get it off, the cable right here, the little L-shaped piece, it just sits right in this clip right here. So all you got to do is just pop it over and lift it out. So that's easy. It's right here. Not only is that where it breaks, but in this case, because that cable's newer, that thing was stuck in there good. I really had to grab it with 2 fingers like this and pull it straight out. And in doing so, I was putting so much pressure on it. That's when the control unit down here kind of popped out and broke that plastic piece. And then once you pull it out, you got two connectors right here that we got to deal with. They just, you know, squeeze in and pull out, but if they're in there for any length of time, these suckers do not want to pull out, especially this larger one. It really wants to stay connected. So you might be in for a slight fight when you pull this stuff out, but you can see why I disconnected this earlier right there to get it out of our way, so that's one less thing I got to fight with. And getting a close-up at the cable right here, the end of my thumb, the tip of my thumb right there, that's where it breaks, right there, right where it slides into the handle. As you can see, this one's just fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. You got to look in there and make sure it's not stressed white or obviously broken, because if it's broken, then the door handle's not even going to work. You won't even be able to open the door from the inside. So we need to make sure, you know, that this thing is intact. If not, we got to replace it. Now it's fairly easy to replace because we got to get the door lock actuator, you know, that it's in here. As long as it is bad, it's in here, and so this whole latch assembly has to come out. So if you're watching this video, not only do you learn how to take the door panel off, but you're going to learn how to replace the cable and how to if you needed to replace your latch assembly here, you can do that all with this video, because we got to pull everything out. It's the same exact procedure no matter if you're doing the lock actuator, the cable, or the latch. It's all the same. Alright, now we got to get in here, and as you can see, we got this dust and weather shield on here. Now you can see I've already been in here and I've cut it. That's typically what I do out here in the desert. I will cut them right next to where the factory glue is, because out here if I try to mess with that, it just becomes a nasty mess. You can see how it'll get all stringy. It either does that or it's just rock hard and it just is brittle and it turns into dust. So I've learned that once these cars are a few years old out here in the desert, I can't pull that stuff off anymore. Other areas of the country, you probably can just pull this back and you'll be fine. But here, what I do is I cut it and then I will seal it back up with all weather tape. And you can see this is sealed with all weather tape, and this stuff lasts. I have cars that I've fixed and then I see them years later and this stuff just looks brand new. So it does work. So I'm just going to take and cut it right where I cut it before. And I'll just cut it from about here to here, because we just need to get in this area. And while I'm thinking of it, the all weather tape works because it's made for, you know, weather and stuff like this. However, packing tape, duct tape, that stuff does not work and it disintegrates and doesn't hold. I've pulled that stuff off and it just doesn't work at all. So I don't recommend that stuff. Alright, so as you can see, we just take it back to around there and then we're good. It gives us enough working area. And if we end up moving the latch assembly, which we most likely will, what I'll probably do is just put a slice right here, so when we pull this off, it comes off easy. I don't have to try to fish it through, and then we just tape it. It works just fine doing it that way. Alright, while we're right here, we'll just pop this little connector off for our wiring. And then there's 2 plugs back here. We've got our 2-wire plug right here, which runs our actuator, and then we got our 3-wire plug right above it. That's going to be for the actual switch or the knob to tell it when it's locked or unlocked. We just really need the 2-wire connector right here for now, and we'll test it real quick and we'll verify that our actuator is the problem. But we can just squeeze that and pop it through. At least we'll get that, we'll loosen it up. And there it is right there. So now we'll just grab a little tester and we'll test this thing. Alright, I have my test light hooked up. You can see I'm using an AES Wave test lead kit to make it a little easier so I have a good reliable connection. Now we just want to make sure that our light lights up every single time reliably when we hit the button. You can see I have it plugged in. Now because we're having an intermittent problem, we want to see if we have an intermittent problem with this light right here. And we got to remember, we got positive on one side and negative on the other. That'll run the lock in one direction, and then when we switch it, it'll run the lock in the other direction. Now our light works the same way. It doesn't matter if we're bringing power this way or if we're bringing power the other way, it's going to light it up. So that's why a test light works good in this situation. We want to make sure it's nice and bright every time. No intermittent problems. I'm going back and forth in each direction. You can see it's lighting up every single time reliably. So we got a bad door lock actuator. We got to get it out and get it replaced. And we always want to use the correct adapters. That's why this AES Wave test lead kit with all the different adapters works excellent. You can see, you know, I can just hook it up to my test light pretty easy. But what we don't want is to spread those terminals in there by stuffing our test light or stuffing the wrong test lead in there, and then now we have issues with this plug. And you know, a lot of people might, once you have issues like that, they'll be replacing these door lock actuators or replacing the MICU, not realizing it's because somebody tested this thing wrong. So we don't want to create problems that weren't already there. Alright, now that we confirmed it's bad, we can go ahead and unplug the 3-wire connector that's back here. It's the same thing, just squeeze it in and pull it out. Now all our wiring is disconnected, and while we're thinking of it, we got to disconnect this cable right here. So I'm going to reach around and do what I did before with the needle nose pliers, and I'll unclip it, and this one we can reuse because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Now if yours is broken, you can just pry from right here and just snap it off. You don't have to worry about saving it because it's already broken. But this one's not broken, we're going to try to save it. Alright, looking through a mirror, let's see, can you see it? Yeah, right there. So we just got to pop that out. Kind of a pain, but it's worth saving so we don't have to buy a new cable. There we go, it's out. And I just used these bent tip pliers so I could get a good angle on it. Alright, right now while I'm thinking of it, we're going to spray this right here with penetrating oil to help us release this rod here in a little bit. So we'll let it set up and then we're going to have to disconnect it. But we want to be careful with this because if we just yank on it, we can break the door handle. It's just a piece of plastic, this little piece that sticks out that it's connected to. So if we just rip it off, because there's a barb on there, it'll want to grab, and if we just rip it out, we can break the door handle, and then you got to buy a new door handle. That's no fun. So we're just going to spray it with penetrating oil so that we don't have issues. And just let that sit there for a bit while we do some other work. Alright, because we know we're going to pull this off just to make it a little easier on ourselves, I'm just going to slice that right there. You can see it's all full of goo so that I can get it out later. It'll be fine, we'll tape it. And we'll just take this screw off right here. Just remember this silver one, a little bit fatter, goes right here. And then this gold one goes into our knob. You don't want to mix them up because you'll get them messed up. And then this just kind of pulls out. You got to pull it towards the edge. There's little hooks, and it'll hook when we put it back in. It'll hook the same way, just like that. Alright, now this metal bracket for our window run channel, we're gonna have to take that off, and it disconnects up here. Where is it? Right about over here. It splits, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pull this 10mm bolt out, and then we can just reach in there and pull it down, and it'll come out, and it'll come right out of this rubber channel here, like that. Alright, now we should be able to just reach in there, and you can see it's loose. You can kind of just pull it down, and we can bring it right out here, and we can slide it right off. And that's all it is. And yeah, that end piece right there will slide up into, can we see it? Where is it at? Right up there. Right there. It's going to slide up in there when we put it back. Alright, now with this up out of the way, let's see if I can get you a shot. We got to deal with our two rods right here. We got 1 and 2 we got to deal with. Up there, I don't know if you can see it. Let me see if I can get you a shot right here. The little tab right there, we got to pull it towards us. Let's see if I can get it with you guys in my way. Oh, there we go. We pull it up, and of course this is in the way. Oh, come on, everything's in my way. I don't know if you can see, but I pulled it up and out of the way. So now it should be loose, and then our rod should come straight out. I can't see, you guys are in my way. Did it come out? Looks like it did. So yeah, you just pop it towards us and the rod comes out. Now, where's our other rod? We got to get this one. So we're gonna have to pop this plastic clip off. I'll get a little screwdriver. We'll pop the clip off, and then we'll get this rod out. Alright, now we got to deal with the other rod, and if we're not careful we can break our door handle. So usually we can just take a screwdriver and just pop this one off, and then this one I like to just work it back and forth a little bit like this and get it loose, and then we can put our screwdriver up underneath here, if I can do it with you guys in my way, and we'll pry just a little bit. Come on, there we go. We didn't break it. At least I don't think we did. You can see that barb on the end. That's what gives us trouble. If you're not careful, snap the arm off and then buy new handles. No fun. Alright, now if we did everything right, we should be, let me just grab this. We should be completely disconnected. We got our rods in the back. We got our 2 screws right there. Now all that's left is we have the 3 screws holding the latch right here. 1, 2, 3. We got to knock those out. And then if you look, this thing hangs, this little plastic piece that we took this screw out of, it hangs right here and right here. So once we take the 3 screws off over here, we can just lift it up and pull it out and get our whole contraption out. But we got to get the 3 screws first. Now that aids in assembly actually, and disassembly. It'll hold it in place. So when we put it back, we can do the same thing. We can just hang it on these 2 little clips and everything will line up. Now if you look close, you can see there's a dot on these. That means these are JIS screws, and so we want to use the appropriate JIS bit. I'm going to use a number 3 bit. I'm going to use my M18 1/4" driver right here from Milwaukee. We're going to put that on there, and we're going to pop them out. And I found impacting with a 1/4" but an 18-volt 1/4" tends to knock these out pretty good. Sometimes these are rusted in there bad and you got to drill them out. Just be careful not to mess up your latch here. Just drill enough, you know, just to the insides of right here where the 4 corners are. If you drill just the center right there, it'll pop the head off and you can get it out, and then you can work on the screws from the bench. But yeah, sometimes these are rusted in there and you have no choice but to drill them out. Just be careful, don't damage your frame and don't damage the actual latch, or you're going to be buying a new latch assembly too. And I'm putting a decent amount of pressure on there to pop them out. And I found this works better than trying to hit it with an impact wrench, or I'm sorry, an impact driver, because it tends to dent the door panel right here, and we don't want that. Oops. And our little clips did not hold it. The whole thing fell down. That's fine. Now we can pull it out. Now, like I said, normally it'll stay up into place, but you can see our whole assembly kind of just fell down. It's no big deal. So when we pull it out, we just got to be careful not to bend this up. So we want to allow that to go in there, and then we're going to have to pull our cable through the opening right here, and then we got to fish it through here. So that way nothing gets messed up. And when we put it back, we're going to have to fish them through the same way. And then we should be able to just get the whole thing out of here. Come on. Of course, this cable wants to hang up on everything. And there we go. There it is right there. So yeah, when you pull it out, just be careful not to damage anything. That's what it looks like. We just want to be careful we don't damage the knob or our cable here. Now, well, obviously if it's broke, it's not going to matter. But this little end is what was holding it up right now. It wants to reach up in there and grab stuff. But there it is. That's what it looks like. So we'll go over to the bench and we got to get our actuator off. I went ahead and took some original JB weld and I JB welded that back on. So once that sets up, that should be good as new. It should hold in place. So now we can get to that. Alright, before I take it apart, just make note of how the cables are routed. So you want this on the way we're looking at it right now. This would be on the top. This one would be running through this channel here. That's the way we need to make sure it goes back together. We do not want this one underneath the other one or it won't work. But you can see how this one kind of slides in the groove there and this one goes over the top, and there's a little cutout there. So they'll naturally go back to their right spot, but we just got to make sure we don't screw that up and get them backwards. And you can see there's some foam along here. Now if you have to replace the latch assembly, you'll want to pull this foam off and put it on the new one. Usually that does not come with it. If you're going to do that, spray it with some spray adhesive, let it tack up for a little bit, and then you can stick it onto the new one. If you carefully peel it off, you can just turn it over and spray the adhesive on it, and you can put it back. If yours is falling off, you can tack it back on too, but this one looks good. This tiny little piece is kind of coming off, but it's fine. Alright, as you can see, got it turned over. Now what we're going to do, we're going to remove this cover right here. So we can just press this tab down. Can you see that? We're going to press that tab down and pop it out just a little bit. We're going to take our favorite little screwdriver here, stick it in there. You can pry it out. Now once it comes out, we can take our cables off, take this thing off. We'll set it aside. Alright, now there's usually a screw around here somewhere, and there's our screw right there. We just need to take that off. Come on. Pop that out of here. Now we just got to take this cover off. Alright, now to remove this cover, it's clipped in 3 places. Right here, and right here, and then right here it kind of latches on right there, you can see. So we can take our screwdriver and we'll kind of pop that up a little bit. And see, without tangling our cables up too much. And then we got to grab this one and pop that up and out. So once we pop that out, we can usually just pull this one up and over. And now we've got to get it off this piece right here, which sometimes can be a little difficult. But if we work it up and over, we can usually get it off. Come on, you can do it. And there we go. And just be gentle with it and you can pop it off. All we got to do is move it down a little bit and then we can work. Now if you're removing your cables, you could do it right now. Just like our door cables, and on the other side you just have to pop these over and these come out of their housing. If you needed to replace either one of those, you could do it right now. We don't need to, so we're not going to worry about that. We just need to get our old door lock actuator off. This is it right here. So we will have to disconnect it and pull that screw out. So we can disconnect this right here. maybe, without breaking it. And kind of just push it off and then lift our cable out. And then I don't even have to lift this out of there. We can leave it exactly as it is. We'll just take our screwdriver, unscrew it, now this is a machine screw, so we don't want to mix it up with the other screw that we took out. You can see this is machined. It usually has a little bit of Loctite on there. And now this is, it's just pressed in there, so we just need to pull it out. Now we got to remember, when we put this back, we need to make sure that this piece right here lines up with this. We will have to reuse this little clip, so hopefully we didn't break it when we took it off, because we're going to have to reuse it. Alright, in order to fix this, we're going to need some parts. Right here is our door lock actuator. This is a genuine one from Honda. So there's your part number for it. Hopefully you can read that. Now obviously this is genuine. You can buy aftermarket ones if you want. They're pretty inexpensive, whichever way you go. As you can see, it does not come with our pink clip there, so we're going to have to reuse that. And if you happen to break the cable, here's a brand new Honda cable. I recommend getting a Honda cable, and actually I'm not even sure they make aftermarket ones, but these are generally in the $7 to like $11 range, so they're not very expensive. This is for the left side. If you happen to be doing the right side, which I did have to fix the right side on this vehicle, it's exactly the same. The only difference is there's only one rod on here instead of two. Otherwise it's pretty much exactly the same procedure. And there's your part number if you need the other side. And if you happen to break the cable on the other side, it's different. Where's the part number? So there's the part number. You gotta make sure you have the right part numbers, and they're different colors. As you can see, black is on the left, gray goes on the right. So just make sure you put them on the right side, otherwise they won't line up, of course. But we didn't break the cable, so all we need to do is replace the actuator today. And I guess I should mention, seeing as I'm here, if you do happen to, mess up the screws that go into the latch assembly and you need new ones, you can buy, this is typically how they come from Honda, you buy a bag of them. Now these are not the right size, so this is not the correct part number. You got to look, I'll put the right part number in the description, but you'll want to get a bag of these so you can fix it. That's typically how they come, either 6 or 8 or 10. This came in a bag of 10. Usually you can't buy just 3 generally. And of course, you always want to verify your parts are the same, and they are. Now, like I said, we got to reuse this clip. I'm going to take a small pair of needle nose pliers. We're just going to squeeze this in gently and pop it off. Now we want to make sure we put it on in the right direction, so keeping our parts the same. We'll just snap it into place. Now we're good to go on this side. Now we're going to slide this back on. You can see there's a groove right there. So that groove goes right there. You can see there's a little notch. We just got to put it inside that groove, into the notch. Come on. And then this has to line up also. And we'll and you can see it'll find its way home. You might have to wiggle it a little bit. And then we're lined up there. And now, before we forget, just so it doesn't put any strain on the part, we'll go ahead and we'll attach our knob. We've got to kind of spin it around. It doesn't want to cooperate, it wants to flip. But we'll pop that into place. And now we can just put our screw back right there. Alright, now we'll take our screw, and I don't know if you can see, right there, there's a dot. It's JIS, so we want to make sure we use a good JIS screwdriver. That's why I have several of them. And we'll just put this in, we'll get it snugged up. We don't need to kill it, just get it snug. Alright, now if we did it right, when we pull our door lock, we should be able to actuate everything, and you can see we are. So we'll leave it in the unlocked position so we don't lock ourselves out on accident. And we should be able to put the cover back on. And we just kind of snap it into place, get it to line up. This cover can be a pain in the butt sometimes. But there, we just snap it in everywhere. And we're good to go. Now we can put our black cover back on. Alright, to get the cover on, we can just turn it this direction. Just kind of snap it back into place like that. And if we turn it over, this, remember we want this one to go underneath, kind of go through. Now this should be down over here. That way it doesn't rattle. That should be right there. And then this goes right over the top of it like that. Alright, and we don't want to forget our screw. I don't really think that plastic will pop off without it, but we want to make sure to get it back in. Now our assembly is complete. Now it's ready to go back in the vehicle. Alright, now if we remember how to do this right, we're going to fish this back up through, and then it's going to sit in there, and then we can hang it on our two little clips right here. We just got to remember we're going to fish this through here. Just be mindful of these door rods. They kind of go wherever. And if we did it right and these rods are not going in the wrong direction like they want to right now, we should be able to hang this up. Remember, it's a balancing act. Everything wants to be in the way, including the run channel for the window. Alright, so if we did it right, it'll hang just like that. You want it to be a little smoother. It might help to set this up like that while you're doing it. That was kind of in my way, and then the rods, they want to get hooked up under stuff over here. But you can see we're all lined up now, and I didn't have to force it. If you're having to jam it and force it in there, something's probably in the way. One of the rods are probably hitting up here and you want to figure it out. Alright, now I don't want this falling down, so we want to put our 3 door latch screws back in here. We're just going to do it loosely. That way we can get everything lined up before we start tightening things down. There, now our assembly won't fall in there. Alright, now we want to get those rods back into place. So this one we should be able to just press in like that and then snap it down. Come on, you can do it. Come on. This thing doesn't want to play nice. There we go. Alright, now we just got to get the back one. We should be able to just kind of fish in there. I might have to get you guys out of my way to grab this one. More of a pain in the butt. Now, let's see if I can deal with you guys in my way. There, got it. Hopefully I didn't move the camera too much. But yeah, that piece just presses down. So now we got both of our rods clipped back in. And you see what I did? I just kind of stood this up there, because that otherwise it kind of just sits in your way. But we can put it back down where it's supposed to go now. Alright, before we forget, we'll just fish this cable through properly and then snap it back into place. So there, now, and make sure this foam rides right here so this cable doesn't rattle. Now we'll go ahead and put our 2 screws in right here so that this is properly put back into place. Alright, now remember, the fat silver screw goes right here. We can go ahead and snug that up. And then the smaller gold screw is going to go up here. And like I said, there's hooks on the top and bottom. Make sure they hook in. Otherwise this won't sit in there properly. And then we want to make sure that goes up and down without binding. Alright, now that we got everything properly lined up, now we can go ahead and run these down. Three ugga-duggas and you're good. Okay, now we can reinstall our window run channel. Typically you can grab the window run channel and kind of slide it into place like that. You can see it'll just slide in the grooves and we can slide it all the way up. Just want to make sure it presses securely. It needs to be pressed securely all the way in there. And we can slide it up. Did my flashlight just die? Oh, but it's not going to do anything. Alright, well, I'm going to have to get my other flashlight. We need to slide it up into place and then make sure that the metal brackets slide into each other. So let me go get another flashlight. Alright, there you go, brought you inside. Hopefully you can see right where it slides up in there. Like that. Oh, let me get you out. And then if we did it right, you can see our bolt hole lines up perfect. We might have to bring it down a hair just like that. Now we know we're in good shape. And we'll take our bolt to 10mm head. We'll put that back in. And we can just take our impact and run this in. 3 ugga-duggas. And of course, taking a look in there, you can see how our window run channel is in place all the way up. That's how you want it to be. We want our window to slide in there properly, otherwise we're going to have window issues. And how about we go ahead and pull our light out now before we forget. Alright, now we just need to plug our electrical connectors back in. You can see they kind of naturally go home where they're supposed to. We'll plug them both in, and then we can put our clip right through there, and now we're back just like we were before. Everything looks good. Alright, I plugged our switch back in, so before we button everything back up, let's make sure it works. Looks like it's working reliably. I think we got a fix. Alright, now I'm just going to take my all-weather tape and I'm just going to button this back up just like it was. We're going to seal it from dust and moisture so we'll keep all that stuff out of the car. Alright, now before we hang the door panel back, we want to make sure that our clips are still in the door panel. You can see all the way around we're good. Sometimes these will stick in the door itself, and so if so, we have to pop them out and slide them back right in here. Usually you can reuse them. Every once in a while they'll break and you got to get new ones. Now that we got that out of the way, we can go ahead and I guess reinstall our bulb. That way we won't forget. We can just pop that in place and we can just snap it into place. Snap that in. Now we're good. Now because this is out, we can just kind of make sure that this pulls through right here. And we're going to have to snap our cable back into place. So all I'm going to do is press it into the groove right there and snap this into place. There you go. I don't want to put too much strain on it getting a shot, but you can see you got to snap it back into place just like that. Alright, now we just got to hang this back the way it was and get our doorknob through. Come on. And we want to make sure that these are poking through so we can reconnect it. If you leave it snapped into place like what the original plan was, then you just have to reach around and connect it. And I would do that before you try to connect the cable. Once you connect that cable, this door panel doesn't want to pull much more than that. So you definitely got to do that cable last. And once you set the door panel on, it's a good idea to come on the outside and look. Make sure that thing is all the way down into place. If you can see plastic right there, then it's not all the way in the proper place. And usually, if it's in the right place, then you can see, well, hopefully you can see, but our clips line right up. So we can just tap them all the way in, and you can see our holes line up perfectly. So now we can put our screws in. Now, we can go ahead and put the screw in the handle here. And then we can put our cover back in, and then we'll put these two screws in. Now remember, those are just plastic inserts in there. We just want to get them snug. Then we can clip this back in. Now it's got a little tab on this side, so we want to put that in first, and then the other side will snap in. And then we can clip this in, and obviously we have to put it down on the bottom, and then this piece has to kind of snap in here, and then the metal clip will snap in right there. If we don't line it up right, then it won't go in properly. But if we did it right, it'll be a nice reveal all the way around. It won't look like it's popping out or cockeyed. Alright, before I put the switch assembly back, we're going to let that JB weld set up. But I just wanted to point out, look at how much that piece is for that panel assembly, and it's just the plastic we're talking about, $395. If you have the silver one, it's $453, and that's the online price. You can see how much, what the retail is. Now when I pull these things apart, or I should say before I pull these apart, I always explain to the owner that I might break these pieces, and I'll do my best not to, and if I can, I will, you know, JB weld them like I am. But I always warn them ahead of time that they may break, and if they, you know, are not comfortable with having to either have me repair it or buy a new one, then I won't work on their car, because there's too great a chance out here in the desert, once they're 10 years old or older, you're gonna break these. And so I always try to point that out ahead of time. Now, even though we don't have the window switch in, we can still verify that our handle works. And if that cable was broken right there, we would not be able to open the door. So that works. We can verify that our lock works manually. Alright, so that works. Now we gotta check, make sure this is all good order. And I'm gonna grab the key. Actually, it's right here. We can grab the key and make sure this works too, because we did disconnect that, and you can see we're good. Alright, well, at least all that works. Now we just need to let that switch cure, and then I can reinstall it, and we can verify one final time that our electric locks work. Alright, we'll take our switch assembly. We'll see if our JB weld is worth $395. We'll get these plugged back in. And we'll do our final checks. I think that's gonna live to fight another day. Hopefully it works. Put our key in, make sure our windows still work. Alright. And we gotta close the door to check the locks. Alright, we already tested the doors, or the handles I should say, so we know those work. Now let's see if our locks work. And by the way, I did replace the other one too, so no more buzzing over there. And looks like it works. Works consistently. We got to fix. And our broken piece of plastic, good as new. You'd never even know it was broken. Well, there you go. This car is fixed with 2 door lock actuators, not just one. Although I only showed you one, the passenger side is the same thing. You got to remember, if you're doing this job, the coupes are a little bit different. They're the same basic layout and procedure, but they're slightly different. There's some slight differences, but otherwise it's pretty much the same thing. Thankfully, our gray JB Weld original held. That's my go-to stuff whenever I have an issue like that where I got to glue something back together and I need it to stay. I use the gray stuff, the original formula. It works well, although it doesn't always fix everything. Sometimes plastic just doesn't want to cooperate and it doesn't work. It just snaps right back. But you got to let it sit for like 24 hours. So I let it cure overnight before I tried to snap that back in. In any event, hey, if the video helped you out, you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Thanks for watching.